Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to Without a Stitch podcast. If you're new here, my name is Jess.
And I'm Lauren.
So for today's topic, we're going to be talking about personal insecurities. I think the first thing that pops into my head is physical insecurities, things like that, body image. But hopefully we'll be talking about some other things today.
Some other deeper.
Some other insecurities.
Yeah.
So to jump right in, what would you say your top 3 biggest insecurities are?
This is very invasive as a first question, but this is how we do it here. Okay. I think like you said it, like initially, I think like many people, body image and things like that, especially now with like summer coming up and bathing suit season and all kinds of things like that, it kind of makes those issues more prominent. And even aside from like bathing suits and things like that, because I think that our culture has gotten a lot more like accepting where like it's not all bikinis. Like you can go into like Aerie and like popular stores and they have like one pieces and even like high-waisted bikinis, which is amazing.
And like a beach body is a body on the beach. Like it's not
it's not like this cut chiseled thing. But yeah, I mean, body image aside, that's definitely something that I've struggled with, even with like dresses that have like my arms out, like that's like I'm wearing today ironically, but that's definitely something that like I've struggled with. And even like watching our podcast back, like I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I was sitting that way and I looked like bigger, and like I guess on camera people say that like you tend to look heavier, but I mean it is what it is.
What about maybe like personality traits or just other things in your life, maybe not physical?
Yeah, I think that something that's kind of unconventional in the terms of insecurities that I would consider is the idea of relationships and kind of just how I act and just insecurities in general when it comes to that, because I think because of relationships I've been in the past where infidelity was like a prominent issue multiple times. I think I go into relationships with the idea of like, what am I doing wrong? Am I good enough?
Yeah.
And like, what can I be doing to keep them? Which is a sad thing, but I think that just because of like the experiences I've had, that's kind of like my point of reference.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me, although every relationship and every person is different, to not carry that baggage per se into starting fresh with someone, because I have been burnt and hurt so many times through circumstances I've been through in the past. But we can get into that a little bit deeper later. But what would you say are
probably, I mean, off the rip, definitely like my body image and things like that. But I think also just with the way I express myself, I'm kind of insecure about that, like the way I dress and things like that. I'm very insecure about my intelligence, in school and stuff like that, and just comparing myself to others. And so I definitely insecure about that. So with the ones that you listed, is there any way to change them? And if so, why haven't you?
Wow, okay, we got a backup. I guess I would go to my first one, which is body image. And there's definitely a way. I mean, you can look at it 2 ways. You can look, there's a way I could change my body, and there's a way I could diet, exercise, which is kind of lacking in that department. But I think there's also ways that you can change your perception to become more comfortable and in those kind of situations as well.
Because you don't ever want to change yourself for others. So for instance, if we're gonna take your first answer, it's immediately just like a toxic thing for you to go to the gym specifically with the intent to look good for others. Or going to the gym because it looks good to go to the gym and stuff like that. I'm not saying you won't get healthier by doing that, but having that as your, main motivation for going is definitely just a toxic thing. So I think kind of doing things for yourself and bettering yourself for yourself is kind of where you need to start when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
Where I need to start, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that it gets to a point, kind of what you said, is it almost becomes like a performing thing.
Yeah.
Whenever you look at it in terms of making changes or acting a certain way in order to create a reaction or please other people rather than yourself. And that's when I think it becomes an act.
Yeah.
Instead of like more genuine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I read something because obviously like working on my fitness and stuff like that, like my health, I read this thing where you don't tell people you're going to the gym until you've already gone to the gym, because the satisfaction comes from telling people, oh yeah, I'm going to the gym. That's where it comes from for a lot of people. So, and I mean that helped. Like, I guess on my Finsta I would post like once I was already at the gym, I'd post like a daily update like, hey y'all, I made it today somehow, like I don't know, just random things like that. But I wouldn't tell anybody until I've already done it. True. And I feel like that goes along with a lot of things in your life. Like, don't tell people that, I don't know, like I always say, like, let them stay a step behind. You know what I mean? Like, don't let them know your next step until you've already achieved it. Yeah. Like, so education and stuff like that.
Be in the motive of doing it for yourself rather than completely on how other people are going to perceive that, or how they already are perceiving it, as if you were to like tell them beforehand.
Exactly, yeah.
So to go off that, which insecurity would shock people if they knew about it? I mean, shock is a like heavy word, but more just like surprise people.
Kind of a weird one, which I guess is the point. I'm sure like people have noticed that like I'm not very feminine. Okay. In the way that I dress and sometimes my demeanor. But that's not something I'm super comfortable in. I mean, how do I explain this? So like like the way I dress specifically, I don't dress to generally please others. Obviously it's hard to like whatever, but I dress for comfort and for how I'm feeling that day. And some days I'm feeling more masculine, some days I'm feeling more feminine. So it's kind of definitely an insecurity of mine, like not dressing the part, just because like I don't know, people have made comments to me like recently. I think I told you about it when I went to the doctors. I went to the doctors with a new practice, and so I had to have my like whatever first appointment. Yeah. So oh my god, when my doctor walked in, she made a comment about how I must have woke up at my boyfriend's house and put on his clothes today. And I was like, first of all, thank you for assuming I have a boyfriend. Second of all, these are my clothes and I chose to put like, I don't know. And I get it. Like, that's not a rude thing to say. Like, she didn't say anything, malicious. Yeah. It was just a funny comment. And she probably genuinely thought that they were my boyfriend's clothes. Right. But it's just like hearing that so many times. It's like, why can't these be my, like, you know what I mean? Why can't it be okay for me to dress more masculine sometimes? Yeah. And I think just dressing androgynously has definitely caused some insecurity, but I would be more insecure if I did not. That's true, because you would be fitting a role in conformity that you don't identify with. Exactly, yeah. And like, that I do dress femme sometimes, for sure, and I'm not like actually androgynous. I'm just speaking, in terms of fashion. In terms of the way that I express myself. For me, I think that it would be more like a social media kind of route, just because that's like what my focus is in a lot of the time, and a lot of my time, both work and in my free time, is spent on social media. Yeah. So with that comes insecurities that I think by like looking at Instagram or looking at like any of thing I post online, people get this idea that I'm super confident, and like the thing is that people post pictures and they're edited, they're filtered. It's on your best day, you're posing like, and it's probably edited. Exactly, yeah. So then it's hard, because then you almost set a standard for yourself that you have to live up to. And I think a lot of insecurity comes with that people might not
generally expect, because they see like the YouTube videos, they see like even like us now like talking so candidly about things that people might like not be able to talk about, and they think that's like a sense of confidence, which like, yeah, I mean in some circumstances, but at the same time it's not all that you originally like see.
Yeah,
like there's more to it.
Yeah, definitely more to it. Like I think coming on here and having not all of these conversations, all, you know, the majority of these conversations are easy to have because I mean we're in a room and it's just me and you,
and we're close. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
whenever we film, I never think like, oh, this person's gonna be watching it. Like,
yeah, but definitely when we get into heavier topics like we did last week, you know, I thought about cutting out some parts that I got like a little emotional and stuff like that, and that was just completely out of insecurity, and then I had to kind of have a reality check, and like that's the point of this podcast, like just to be open and raw and without a stitch of, you know what I mean, like
everything we listen. Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, I totally agree. Like it could this definitely comes off a certain way, you know, with confidence and stuff like that. That
we want it to be honestly the opposite.
Yeah.
Not a lack of confidence,
but
we
want
it to be vulnerable. We want it to be
which definitely isn't easy.
A naked conversation, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But
so this one's worded kind of a little weird.
Okay.
So let me try to rephrase it a little bit in my head. So in your life right now, are you doing what you're doing? As in like who you're friends with, you know, going to school, you know, career path. Are you doing that for you or for others?
Okay. I think I've gotten better about this because definitely in high school, like we talked about in our first episode, a lot of it was image. A lot of it was like friend group kind of thing.
Yeah.
All of that, there was like a status that came along with it. And even in college, I think that I was very articulate with like how I carried myself because it's a small school, and I'm kind of going off all of our previous episodes. Yeah. Wow. And I felt like there was an image that I had to obtain for other people.
That's exhausting.
It is. It's completely exhausting. But now as I've kind of grown up and kind of matured in myself, I've kind of become more self-aware in the sense that I don't really need the satisfaction as much from others, at least in friendships. Seeing like what I've gone through in our friendship together, and I think that I've been able to open up more with you than like I have and be like more of that vulnerable self. And even be open with my insecurities and things like that I hadn't been able to previously do.
And that's a really mature thing that shows a lot of self-growth, because I think that once you play a part and you are so conscious about your every move, it's very hard to turn that off. Yeah. It's very hard to turn that off.
I mean, in terms of like platform, I think that like obviously not in this space because that's not what the goal is here, but
when you're having, you know, future employers or, you know what I mean, partners seeing that, like obviously you need to be very conscious about.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like a lot of people take Instagram things like that, like, oh, whatever, like I post whatever, but it's always a thought in the back of my head, like, because my Instagram also doubles as like my portfolio for like future clients, for future employers, like you said. And all of the content I post is carefully planned out. I plan out everything. I color everything correctly. So, I mean, yeah, there is a sense of doing that for other people. I do find a sense of joy in having the Instagram aesthetic, and I obviously have a genuine love for social media and like doing that kind of thing, but there is also kind of a dual purpose where I'm fulfilling that to set a standard for other people.
Yeah. All right, guys, so on that note, we are going to be taking a quick break, but we will be right back with more questions.
All right, guys, welcome back. So we're going to start off our return from the break. I'm going to ask Jessie my next question. So that is, which of your biggest flaws do you like to rationalize the most or justify, and how do you do that?
Well, first I'd like to make it clear that I have 0 flaws. And to answer your question, I think I'm going to kind of direct this towards my relationships.
Okay.
Or my relationship with my boyfriend.
It's only one.
Don't want to out myself.
We all know what you did last summer.
What? This will be cut.
Shawn Mendes.
Oh my god. So, for my flaw, it's definitely, I know as funny as it sounds, it's kind of just like the whole, do you still like me? That kind of thing. Which, I mean, it sounds stupid because like I'm in a committed, long-term relationship.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why I rationalize it. Like, we've been together for so long, I just get so insecure that because I'm I'm committed and I'm in so deep and I, love this person and I want a future with them, I just rationalize it because it's like, we've been together so long, like, I don't want this person to just be content. I want them to be happy and want to, I just want us to be thriving and growing together. And I just like get so insecure that like, what if this person is just content and doesn't feel that way? And it's scary to think about like if that were true, because it's been so much time that we've been together. It's like, I don't want to say the time would have been wasted because, you know what I mean, I've been enjoying every moment of it, but it's a big chunk of time that, if I wasn't with this person, I could be finding, you know what I mean? But I mean, he tells me every single time that I ask, like, of course, like, right. I would never, I'm not content, I'm happy and stuff like that. So I know it's not true, but
no, I agree.
I kind of rationalize it.
I think it's easy to get like swept up in feeling like that. And
yeah,
I think that's powerful that you even feel like that in long-term relationships, because like I've felt like that in much shorter term relationships. And I think that it's because you go through this like honeymoon phase with someone.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And with an increased relationship and as you get to know each other more, you become more comfortable. And I think it becomes a question of, as they get to know me more, will they like those deeper qualities as much as like the surface level?
Exactly, yeah. Will they come to realize like, this is not as great as I thought it was, now this honeymoon? Because I totally believe in like the 5 love languages, and in the book he talks about the honeymoon phase, and for some people it can last a few weeks, a couple months, a few years. And in my relationship, it probably lasted, this is a long-term relationship, but probably like a year. It lasted to
you guys
a year
were
and a
so
half.
Young too.
Yeah, but I don't know. And I think that we've had such an open conversation, surrounding our relationship and our feelings towards it and within it, that like we're both fully aware that our honeymoon phase is ended and we're both still happy. And I think that's,
that transition is really important.
Yeah, and it's a hard transition. It's a very hard transition. Just, yeah, I mean, it's hard because it would be so insane if, your honeymoon phase, like if it was like that forever. And sometimes I do wish that it was still like that, but I in no means take what I have right now for granted.
Especially when you look at growing a future with someone and looking that you can transform those feelings from the honeymoon phase into something more long-term, because obviously it's unrealistic to be living with someone, have a family with someone, and still be in that like giddy.
Yeah, I think that I'm definitely more confident and grounded now that we're out of that phase. And it's a much deeper love, I guess.
Yeah. Which you could argue is actually more powerful than the initial.
Yeah, that is true. Initial like butterflies and giddiness and stuff like that. But yeah, that's, I guess, is what my insecurity would be.
Okay.
My one flaw. So going off of that, which kind of answered my question. So do you often worry that your friends or significant other will, I guess, like lose interest in you? Things like that?
Yeah, I mean, like definitely, like I touched on a little bit earlier, in terms of relationships, that is something that I worry about. And I think that, again, that comes with kind of the rapport I've had with people in the past. But I think it's important to realize that like not all relationships are like that. And I read something online, or it was a Gary Vee video, honestly. And it was saying, like, how can you take lessons that you've learned in previous relationships and try to apply them and, like, be guarded? Obviously easier said than done, but whenever you're entering a relationship with a completely new person who, like, might not have those same qualities, or, like, I feel like you have a different connection with everyone you meet, and who am I to use my past judgments and past things like that towards someone who is new.
And that's definitely such an easy thing to say, but actually doing it is so hard. It's so hard to not use your past experiences, and because I mean that creates a judgment.
Yeah. And that's something I'm working through, like, even currently, like, for a while, going off that insecurity. Like, I wasn't in relationships, I was not talking to anyone, like, for, like, the entire, like, first semester, if we're talking, like, I'm thinking in terms of school, but first semester, and then, like, now I've just gotten into, like, talking to people and, like, going on dates and things like that, and it's weird.
And I think you kind of needed that to kind of just reset a little bit, just because I feel like, and I don't mean to get into our next topic that we're going to be talking about next week, but I feel like with your past relationship, I feel like a normal relationship is here as in like what's going on in the relationship and, like, trust and a bunch of other different things. Your past relationships have all been up here, and it's hard for you to come here and just get into a normal relationship without having any sort of insecurity or anything like that from your previous experiences. So I think taking that, kind of step back, and I know it sounds corny, but taking a moment to just kind of, just find yourself and ground yourself. I think that was really important for you.
I agree, because I think that a big step in kind of combating, or, like, I don't want to say overcoming, because I think that there's always, like, certain underlying insecurities. Like, we're all going to have that to an extent. But being more self-aware and being more comfortable in myself, and being able to recognize those insecurities and then deal with them accordingly, has come through that period of time where I was focused on myself more than anything. But yeah, I completely agree. I think that, again, not to get into too much, because next week we will be talking about relationships, which is going to be kind of the tea. But yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see where the next chapter of my life leads in terms of that, because I have dealt with the same kind of situations over and over again. And you don't want to almost put,
I always find that, like, in my relationship, with my boyfriend, it's my insecurities almost create the issues. So if I'm, and this is completely hypothetical, in my case, completely hypothetical. So if I'm constantly questioning my boyfriend, are you cheating on me? Are you cheating on me? He's going to cheat on you. You know what I mean? Like, if you're expecting somebody to do something, the odds of them actually doing it go up so much. So I think taking, when I talk about the insecurity that I have in my relationship, do you still like me? Do you still love me? Do you know what I mean? Are you losing feeling? That kind of thing almost kind of makes them, sit back and kind of really think, like, you know what I mean? Just hearing it so often, it's almost like I'm convincing, you know what I mean? So it's hard, because you don't want to bring those insecurities and negativity into your relationship and create things out of that, but it's so hard not to.
Because you want to have an open and honest conversation about it. But I've struggled with that as well, because I've often thought, like, the common denominator in these relationships is me. And, like, my dad's even said to me, like, why do you keep attracting, like, these type of people into your life? And that is an insecurity going forward, that there is a small part of me that thinks, like, is this, like, something that I can prevent? Is this something that I'm doing wrong? But yeah, we'll get more into that kind of thing later.
Let's take a step back.
Almost went a little overboard, but I always push it too far every time. Anyway, so without getting too much into that topic, I want to go into the next question for you. So what is the one thing people assume about you that you wish was true?
That I wish was true. And I don't mean this to come off like arrogant or talking myself up or whatever, but I've had, I guess, multiple people come to me and, like, seeking advice, and people have told, like, my boyfriend and stuff that that they prefer to come to me for advice and things like that, just because I guess I'm like inviting and I come off as the type of person that, I don't know, like is good at giving advice and good at listening and things like that. But I don't feel that way at all. Like, I don't know, I'm not good socially at all in any way. I'm horrible at like first impressions and making small talk and creating conversation. I'm not good at that and super insecure about that. But if it is true, that's awesome. But I wish it was as true to me as people are saying it is. Like, I don't know.
I mean, obviously there's some truth in it if multiple people have, either it's you have said to you or like other people that you have made them feel a certain way of like, I was going to say comfortableness, but I always like
comfortability.
Comfortability, yes. I have a problem where I always like to I like to put ness at the end of words and pretend they're an actual word.
I will make a montage of just you making up words. Comfortableness. Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, part of me believes it's a little bit true, or that I'm perceived in that way. Because a lot of the people that say that are like, obviously my friends say that, but then my boyfriend's friends will come and talk to me and they'll tell him that like, oh, like I go to her for advice because whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like I just am pretty blunt. That's another insecurity of mine because it comes off completely wrong.
Yeah.
But I've been told by so many people that I'm blunt, and I've been told that it's a good thing and a bad thing. Because sometimes people don't want to hear what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I say. And then later down the line, they're like, oh,
you were right.
You were right. But
I've probably done that a time or two, but
yeah. But that also comes off it can come off rude if I use it in the wrong situations and stuff like that. So I kind of screw myself over sometimes. But I think that that's kind of part of the reason why people say that they come to me for advice or whatever, or even just to talk, is because I'll like tell it how it is. And I don't know. I wish I was more comfortable with that side of myself, because it's not like I'm approaching people. Like they would come to me and I'm like, okay, like, and they'll just like spill everything. I'm like, okay, wow. And I'll just say what I think, and I don't think it goes well. Like, I feel like I'm not giving them great advice.
I think a lot of that might be like your anxiety though. Like,
yeah,
perceiving a situation differently.
Yeah, because
not to, like,
no, yeah. I mean, because we talked about in the last episode, like my anxiety and I mean, I have social anxiety, but I kind of just tie that in with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that definitely is, how that affects how I perceive my conversations that I have. But yeah.
For me, I'm trying to think. Something that people assume about me. I hate to keep going back to social media, but that's like the biggest point of reference for me, is because I think that's something that I deal with like so prominently. It's just the idea of like having like a platform or like looking a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think anybody does this, even people who aren't trying to build any kind of brand or anything, always comparing themselves to others on social media. And whether that's physically in terms of like pictures or just anything, even down to like follower count and engagement, because like as I'm getting into the phase of my life where I'm like applying for campaigns, working with brands, like you apply for them and you're competing against other people. And it's all like who can create the best content, who looks the best, which I mean now isn't really like a huge, I think people are kind of moving away from that. And even just like who can provide us the best results. And it's hard because there's obviously people out there with better numbers and better whatever, but being comfortable in the kind of state you are now, I think, is really important. And I talked about this with Isaac on his podcast, but I had been watching videos on the subject area, and it said that you can make just as much money or be just as successful documenting your way up to like that point of everybody wants to achieve, of like whether it's fame or just anything, which I have actually found comfort in and success in, is kind of
become up.
Yeah, definitely.
Become up.
Which has been interesting to kind of see, just kind of like reactions from people. And I think that's always something in the back of my head is, what are people going to think? Like, what is Lauren trying to do? Like, she's not.
Do you mind if I give my perspective?
Okay. Scared?
No, don't be. So even like with the video that you posted today, just kind of promoting HCCTV and stuff, you come off very confident and confident in what you're doing and yourself and things like that, and in your pictures, the same thing. And you know what I mean? Like, we're so close that like I know, like, you question things. You're a normal person. Like, you have these insecurities with that, but you definitely come off a certain way, which is what you want on your social media. But that's kind of like
contradicting in a way.
I mean, not in a bad way,
right?
But
yeah,
like,
that's also why I was so eager and wanted to do like a space like this, because I think with social media, it's constantly like that image, and it becomes like unhealthy whenever all you can portray on like a platform is like the positive.
And it's so materialistic. Like, it's so nice to just come and sit down and have a real conversation.
And not like script your videos ahead, not figure out like all the shots. Like, just sit down with someone you're close with and just
vent almost.
Yeah.
And that's probably why for the people that are watching this, like, you know, as you're watching, we go off on tangents and it's messy, and I know it could be a little bit more organized. Yeah. And that's because we didn't really want it to be super organized and be super
scripted,
staged. Yeah, because though we do sometimes get a little disorganized and go off on tangents and things like that, I feel like that gives us the real conversation. And those tangents, those are the things that we really, I feel like we can, you know, we learn more about each other, and our viewers can learn more too and get some more insight and stuff like that. So
no, I definitely agree. And I think that going forward, obviously, like, we've gotten messages from people, and I shouldn't say obviously, going forward, I was surprised at the amount of people who like reached out to us and have found comfort in the vulnerability of our conversations and have resonated with them.
And the people too, like, I didn't expect it to be like the people that reached out. I didn't expect it, you know, those people, I never thought that they would be watching. Like, people from high school, you know what I mean, people that I've met briefly, and just things like that, met through my boyfriend,
or
you know,
people we've never met in general.
Yeah, just like recently, like being on a playlist of podcasts next to David Dobrik and unfortunately one of the Paul brothers.
Shocking.
But it was just crazy to see that, and it doesn't really, I never really thought about it. Like, I just kind of thought we were going to come here, have a conversation, and it was more so, I looked at it more so like for us to kind of have this space to do this. And for the people that watch it, they watch it, and maybe, you know, it might resonate with them. But I didn't think that we would be that it would actually be getting out there, and like people would actually be listening and, you know, enjoying it and stuff like that. So it means a lot. Like, I'm surprised. I'm happy about it.
I think that, like, what you said about the people who you weren't anticipating, I think that almost means more. I mean, granted, I appreciate any kind of support and any kind of feedback, even from, like, my best friends, but, like, hearing from people that I haven't talked to since high school, or
didn't even talk to in high school, you know?
And, like, them reaching out and saying, like, hey, I've noticed what you're working on. Like, I really resonated with your last episode. Like, them reaching out and saying, like, hey, I realize what you're doing with this whole social media thing, and I watched your last episode, and I really realized this, and I think that it was really important that you talked about this. And that has been so helpful going forward, because I think a lot of the time it's hard because we're sitting in this room by ourselves, and
it doesn't really click that, like, you know, people are going to be watching this. Even though I hit publish and post it, like, it doesn't really hit, like, I don't know.
I never imagine anyone, like, sitting down and watching it right now, which is kind of weird. And this is another tangent, like we said. Like, that goes along with us being
without a stitch.
On that note, guys, going forward, if anyone is watching this and has hesitated to really, like, reach out about it or anything like that, even if it's negative, like, constructive criticism, this is our first time doing this, even though we're a couple episodes in, like, we're very much in the learning process. it's definitely much appreciated.
Or anything that you guys want us to talk about. We do have ideas for our next episodes. However, for the viewers, if you guys have anything that you would, really like to hear about, just let us know. Message us on one of our accounts or on our the Without a Stitch page.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do that. Or comment, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, next week we're going to be talking about relationships, so that's going to be kind of an interesting one. But definitely excited to talk about. So
absolutely,
stay tuned for that. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Have a good week.